Hi, everybody. I'm Jules of Thought. This is Allegedly Innocent. And I've made some people mad. And I apologize. Truly, truly, sincere apology. They don't like my opinions. They don't like my opinions. So I didn't play the audio, right? I didn't play the audio. I didn't do that. I gave my impressions, and then nearly the entire previous video was, protect yourself. So those of you that had to take a stand and show your moral superiority, I suppose, I accept it. It's okay. So I will say this because I've made some promises, and so I have to stand by the promises that I made. Um, but I can assure you that I don't have that opinion because I am a foolish, impulsive, short-sighted person. There is exactly one word that is used in that audio that I have not seen used anywhere. Anywhere. Not with the police, not in the affidavit, not in Reddit, not in YouTube creators, TikTokers. But I do, the one word is accurate. And that's all I can say because I've made promises and I'm not, just trust me. There is a reason that I say that anyway. So I can accept for the people that feel uncomfortable with my opinion. I can accept that. And I'm sorry that my opinion doesn't match yours. I do, however, have a very specific reason. There's two specific things that are said, but one of those is something that I know, but I haven't seen it anywhere among creators or conversations. So that's all I'm going to say. Okay. So please trust me. My opinion there. I have a very fact-based reason for believing that it is it, or let me put it this way. If it's not authentic, it was created by someone who knows someone in this group. Okay? So please forgive me. Please forgive me. All right. I mean, I'm kind of making light of it, but I got to tell you, it's rough to be a YouTube creator, y'all. People are very passionate about their belief systems. You know what I mean? They make a decision, they develop an opinion, and if it's an opinion that they feel really invested in, they can feel like you've targeted them individually if you have a different opinion. We really need to get to a different place in our culture from that. We need to get to a healthier place. There is not anything wrong with having a conversation with someone who has a difference of opinion. In fact, that really is the optimal situation that you want to be in if you are an intellectual. It is actually the way that our entire United States Constitution was written, and that was based on France's government. we want debate. We want people that have different opinions and ideas to be able to have an intelligent conversation. You state your opinion, you give your facts or proof that support your opinion, and then the other side gives their opposing opinion and the facts that support theirs, and then you come up with an agreement that is closer to exact or reality, right? FBI agent, can't even think of his name now. Gilliam, is his name Jonathan Gilliam or Gillum? Something like that. I took a hard line. I got triggered. He put up a post on Twitter and I was triggered hard. Okay. And I responded like I was triggered. And, you know, we had a couple of words back and forth, kind of I guess a Twitter argument or whatever. But then, then he's had other things that he said that are exactly in line with my belief system. So, it's okay to be, it's okay to be, in conversation with people that have an opposing opinion. It's a healthy thing. It helps people develop a richer opinion or perspective on a problem, and it's desirable. So I do apologize for people that I've hurt your feelings or I made you angry because my opinion didn't match yours, but I hope you will consider my point of view. Okay. Now then, thank you, Nancy Drew. Welcome, my friends. Highlight. Liebe Cats, welcome. Thing 1. Where in the world is thing 2? DJO, I agree. I absolutely agree with you. Pam Frenchman, welcome. And I didn't even look to see who the winner is. Let's see who the winner is. Oh, I even got in trouble. Irene, you're the winner. Welcome to the Hotel California. There you go. Hey, Tiffany Guzman, welcome. Good to see you. Hey, Kathy R. DB, welcome. Okay, so I also got in trouble. You can't make this up. I also got in trouble because my opening song, the opening to my channel, it was way too happy. That's a quotation. That's a mighty happy song for the topic of this video. Okay, well, I'm sorry. It's just the channel song that is my song. That's my song. And it's just always the song I play. If you guys most of you are regulars in my channel, do I play that song before every single video? And usually at the end of the video, if I remember, right? Yes, Liebe Cats. I definitely got taken to task on, well, that is a very happy song for such a horrible topic. You awful woman. Okay. Hey, Pamela. All right. So, yeah, I'm kind of making light of it because I just, it's so weird to be a YouTube creator. I have some videos that I do and I think, God, this is going to be a disaster. This is going to be an awful video. And then people love it. And I'm like, why? And then I have other videos I do and I think, oh, this is such a good video. And then people are just like, doesn't get any traction. It's weird. And never in a million years would I have guessed that the video I just finished doing about a couple hours ago, where basically the whole, really and truly for all intent purposes, the video is about protecting your Ring doorbell because it's a gateway into your home Wi-Fi, right? Your computers, your televisions, and all that. I thought it was a really good video. I thought people were going to really like it, and they don't. Well, I guess they like that part, but boy, they're very mad at me for saying my opinion about the audio and how it came to be. Even crime sleuthing. It did a little bit of, low IQ shaming, kind of, oh, don't be so dumb to be snookered by this, this video. Crime sleuthing. I wasn't snookered, lady. Okay. All right. Hey, Crystal Langford, you too are beautiful, my friend. Hey, Shay Shay, have to say, I do think your song is a juxtaposition with some of your content, but I like it. Well, Shay Shay, I have too also been taken to task for uh, making fun of accused or criminals. There are some people that don't like that I kind of give them clown like names, right? So like Barry Morphew, I called him Black Bart, and Chad Daybell, my nickname for Chad Daybell is the Chadster. And Lori Vallow is the love goddess, and I've made up names to ridicule these people. And so there are a lot of people that got angry about that and felt that I was somehow giving them like a position of honor. And I said, no, you don't understand. These are people that have terrorized another person or another group of people. They have instilled deep fear, and it is a good thing to rob them of their mystique, to rob these criminals, these murderers, to take their power away from them and turn them into clowns rather than letting them be, some kind of famous Stephen King character persona, right? But apparently a lot of people just don't get that concept. You find people, however, dare I say, you understood exactly what I was doing. But there are some people that, they use YouTube for virtue signaling. And so they kind of look for any little thing they can say to try to say you've done something bad. So their real names should not be given our breath. No, I'm glad. Agreed, Leva Katz, 100%. And I even had somebody not long ago leave a nasty message that said something like, "This you should not be saying Bryan Kohberger's name. This is not the Kohberger case. Actually, it is the Kohberger case. But anyway, you should be talking. You should be building up the victims, Maddie, Ethan, Zana, and Kaylee. You should be building them up and making videos in their names, blah, blah, blah." And my explanation for not doing that is this. It's an invasion of privacy to the families and to the people that love these four. It's not, it's so hard for me to explain the concept. I'm not going to get up here and make videos about the four people that lost their lives. They have faced the ultimate violation. The families and the friends need privacy. They need protection. They need reality so that they can heal, right? They don't need some bozo YouTuber making one video after another after them. I mean, that's certainly not what they need. Bryan Kohberger, on the other hand, there's plenty to learn about him. There's a lot to learn from him that may stop the next Bryan Kohberger from acting, that may increase awareness. And even if it's one parent that starts noticing their child having real similarities to some of the earlier behaviors with Bryan, and you get them to a doctor, and you begin to provide an environment that is soothing and calming rather than exacerbating. And the hope is you learn something, or going through the crime, and seeing what do we learn from this? How could we have done better? What could the girls and Ethan, what could they have done to make themselves safer? This is I don't mean for this to sound judgmental, but this is an immediate reaction. And that was, Xana really shouldn't have ordered 4 a.m. DoorDash. I know that we want to believe that DoorDash and Uber and We want to believe that these people, the groceries delivery, we want to believe that these are just people like me and you that are making money and trying to do better in life. But the reality is that we have multiple crimes now where people have been raped, murdered, kidnapped by their delivery people or by their Uber drivers. It's real, right? So there's even is it Uber? I think it's Uber where you can, like, when your driver picks you up, it sends messaging and a map to someone that you pick so that they know, okay, my loved one is in the car with them and they're making their way toward their destination. I think that's an Uber, right? Or is it? Oh, maybe it's Lyft Luxury. Is it Lyft Luxury? Anyway, one of them you can do that. So that's the app that I use, is that I can make sure that when I do get picked up, I've got 3 family members. They all know where I'm at and where I'm going. And, there's that. So I don't get groceries delivered after dark. You got to be careful. It doesn't mean that people are bad and that I'm paranoid and I think delivery people are going to hurt me. It's the exact opposite. I always give really good tips to my delivery people because I know they're trying. For a lot of them, it's like their second or third job, and so I always, I respect these people, and they have made my life a lot easier, and I am grateful for them. But I'm also not going to tempt fate. It's I just don't. Now, it's not likely. It doesn't sound like that this delivery driver had anything to do with what Kohberger did to the murders. But here's my point: if you've got your house all locked down, you're sitting around with your friends, it's 4 a.m., and somebody comes knocking on the door, you're not going to jump up and say, "Oh, it's my food," are you? So I don't know. Please don't think I'm passing judgment. I'm not. I promise. When I was a college student, we were dangerous. Me and my friends used to get up at 3 a.m. and go across the street over to this donut shop because they started cooking, and we'd be studying all night long. And then we'd go like 3:30 in the morning and go across the street and get donuts. So that was a very dangerous thing to do. So, when you're young, you think you're invincible and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, all that aside, yes, we don't live in the 50s anymore. Wish we did. When I was growing up, not that it was the 50s, but I wasn't even born in the 50s. But when I was growing up, when the lights came on, right, we'd spend all day long, Saturday and Sunday, out in the street, running around, out in the pasture. When those street lights came on, that was Mama standing at the door yelling, "Time to come home." So we don't live in that day and age. I'd never let my kids get out like that and have that kind of unfettered freedom. Never in this day and age. It's a real shame, but that's where we are. All right, Irene, as an essentially homebound person, I use delivery frequently, but I don't order for deliveries during the dark. Yeah, same exact thing, Irene. I get my deliveries in like 12 o'clock in the middle of the day, right? All right. It was I wasn't alive in 1958. In fact, I don't even think I was even considered or thought of in 1958. Or the dinner bell. Yeah, is the good old days. There you go. Hey, Skyzy, you're welcome. Hey, Michelle. All right. So what are we going to talk about? Well, I just did a video where I was very organized and didn't really chat and got right to the point and right out of the point. This is more of like one of our chatterlings, okay? This is one of our kind of channel visiting social hour. Let's see what we can learn types of videos. And we're right at 5 o'clock, so I'm going to start now, okay? All right, so I think the first thing that I want to talk about is, what's the first thing I want to talk about? Yeah, it looks like I had, okay, let me start like this. So I had some people that were asking me about Raynaud's. Let me show you what Raynaud's is. Hold on, I got some pictures up here. I thought I had, didn't I put pictures? Yes, I put pictures. Okay. Okay, so this is a common presentation of Raynaud's, and Raynaud's is spelled Reynauds. If you talk to a medical professional, they're going to pronounce it Raynaud's or Raynaud's, depending on, I guess, where they grew up. And it is a problem with circulation, or more accurately, vasoconstriction in small capillaries, right? Now, there's a primary Raynaud's or Raynaud's and a secondary. It is the secondary form that is, well, it can kill you. The primary form is less likely to develop these serious conditions. So the picture that I'm showing you, that's kind of the more expected form of Raynaud's. It's not profoundly shocking to see. It's noticeably white. You can definitely see it, or it can be noticeably red, or it can be even noticeably purple, depending on the stage and how extreme the symptoms are. People that have certain blood disorders, they can have more severe forms of Raynaud's because the blood can get thicker due to like excess platelets, red blood cells, that kind of thing. It's thought to be a problem with special receptors that control the narrowing of blood vessels. There are some conditions where Raynaud's is expected, or is very often a competing or a coexisting diagnosis. That would be if you have like rheumatoid arthritis and like a connective tissue problem or an autoimmune problem. People that have been exposed to certain types of chemicals. If you're a cigarette smoker, you may end up developing secondary Raynaud's. So you've got to be careful. Also, different forms of injury or trauma to the skin. If you do repetitive types of jobs like working with a jackhammer, and then, of course, any kind of medication that would affect the blood or the circulation can result in Raynaud's. So I think, did I put a picture of a more severe form? Again, this is more so that you can see this person's also got rheumatoid arthritis. You can see just these joints that have an angry swelling to them. But you can see the white with the red. I thought I had another one. Okay, what you're looking at here is not Raynaud's. This is from hand washing. Compulsive hand washing. This one is Raynaud's. Let me see if I can pull up better. I'd put more pictures on there. Just give me a second. I'm getting there, peeps. All right, let me share this with you. Now, the reason I'm sharing this is because we had some boneheads that were saying, well, maybe he's wearing gloves because he has Raynaud syndrome. Okay, well, that's what Raynaud's looks like. Okay, so it's not so subtle, right? You're going to look at that person's hands and you're going to go, oh my, are you okay? And then here is a different phase where there's not enough blood getting here versus oxygenated blood that is returning. And it can even be as much as just like one little area being affected. I've seen people before, like every single finger at that top joint is affected. And I've seen other people that it's like their whole fingers. But what is a certainty is you can definitely see something's wrong, right? It can be white due to inadequate blood flow, but then as the oxygen is depleted, well, I think that looks more like frostbite. Hold on. Here we are. See how purpley that fit? My hands do that if I don't pay attention. I take care of myself. I work because I know that that's doing damage every time that happens. So I try not to let it get to that. But this is real. I mean, like, this is what it can really look like. Sometimes taking a photograph of your hand can pick it up better than just looking at it with your eyes with natural sunlight. But there's not enough oxygen. The body, these areas that are really purple, there's no oxygen in that limited circulation that's happening. And even if you look down here, you see how mottled, splotchy blue it is. It almost looks like it's, kind of a bruise, but it's way too even. All right. This is super white, but you see right on the tips here, you see the purple, like right here. Here's a bit of purple here. She's got a white spot on the edge here. Here's a white spot in the palm, but very red. Okay. So that's Raynaud's or Raynaud's. And you can get it on your toes as well. And if it is, if it's uncontrolled, if it's just allowed to kind of develop and stay inflamed or depleted, then it can cause a great deal of damage. And the more important part of this is that it very often can affect internal organs like your lungs. So you do, it shouldn't be neglected just because it seems like it's just a circulation problem in your hands. Although you should pay attention because you don't want to get your fingers amputated. You can have ongoing problems that result in sores and let's see. I was trying to show you something that's a bit more realistic than the most extreme cases. Here's a foot. So if you have something that looks like that, this person's showing their Raynaud's, but you can also see there's rheumatoid arthritis, happening untreated or uncontrolled, because you're beginning to get that deformation from the deposits around the joints. But if you see that kind of thing, go ahead and go to the doctor. Number one, to make sure that internally, if it's a primary or a secondary problem, secondary Raynaud's is more likely to involve internal organs. And, if your internal organs become affected, then it can lead to premature death. Also, it's generally associated with some form of ongoing disease state like rheumatoid arthritis or some other autoimmune. And you can see the rheumatoid arthritis in this guy. See his primary joint here? He's got a lot of buildup and deformation around that. But you can see that white area of no circulation. And so I think there were people that suggested that maybe Bryan was wearing gloves all the time because he had Raynauds or Raynaud's. Um, the problem with that is that it doesn't seem that he was wearing gloves all the time before the crime, right? There's no anecdotal information that he's walking around wearing gloves. And we got a lot of people now that have kind of come out of the woodwork and talking about him. And that's a good thing. Interesting, isn't it, that some of these other criminals or accused people that still should be considered innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, that you didn't have these people coming out to talk about the oddity and how strange they were and that kind of thing. You just didn't see it. But with Bryan, we're seeing it, and that should make you go, I wonder why. Well, is it because he was just notably different, that his unusual, awkward nature was apparent for quite a long time? So that brings me to my next topic, and that is the question of visual snow. Hold on. I don't want the affidavit or the alpha David. Hold on, I'm looking for my topics. Okay. So we had, in fact, Crime Sleuthing was the first person who drew attention for me. You know, she gave me the heads up and said, hey, have you looked at these? You know, what do you think? And then it all kind of began to come out on Reddit more and more. And then I think now you're beginning to see some people do some YouTube videos on this decade-old discussion board. It's a medical condition of this condition. It's a neurological condition called visual snow. And visual snow is a real thing. I've seen, you know, here's one of the primary problems with being a know-it-all. Being arrogant. Acting like you're the only one smart enough to know the truth. You know what I mean? Those people kind of are the ones that kind of get under my skin. I don't like arrogance. I don't like, even for people that should be arrogant, they're very brilliant and they're very accomplished. And I just like people to be authentic and just real, you know? And if you know something, I want you to tell me what you know. I want you, put your knowledge out there. I respect knowledge. I love it. But I don't like when people say, well, I am very brilliant, or I have a high level of accomplishment and achievement, and therefore I'm better than you. Ugh, I can't take it. And I really can't take virtue signaling. Makes me a crazy person. Because when you are being arrogant and when you are using virtue signaling, all you're doing is exploiting other people to try to make you look good. And if that's your claim to fame, is that you can make fun of people, that's not a good way to get there. So I've seen people that have been going, visual snow, that's so dumb. What is that? This is so dumb. You're so dumb to believe these Reddit posts. How could you be so stupid? Okay, well, first of all, be careful acting like that, because you may turn out to look foolish by saying there's no such thing as visual snow. It is a real thing. It is a thing. And we're going to talk about what it is and how it presents and what's it associated with and that kind of thing. But where did we get this information from? Well, like I said, Crime Sleuthing was the first person to draw attention, to tell me about it and say, hey, have you seen this? Look at it, yada, yada. With Jennifer Coffin, what is her name? Coffin Daffer. Jennifer Coffindaffer, a former FBI agent who is active on Twitter, I think I think the things that she talks about, the opinions she's put out there, I am pretty aligned with her views on some things. Some things I don't know what she's talking about because I don't have a like a law enforcement background. I'm a psychologist, but in terms of human behavior and such, yeah, I'm with her. She's kind of talked about some of the things, the online trail, or the possibility that bumbling Bryan could have left a trail of information from him and about him online. Right now, we do know he has shown quite an interest in digital sleuthing. Like he really was interested. He wanted to do research. He was interested in this idea of cloud criminal investigation, being a detective, looking at online clues, or looking at the digital footprint of a telephone, or the schematic or the telematics of a vehicle, and how can those things be used to solve a crime, which is hilarious because he did everything absolutely wrong. Yes, it does appear that he left a rather fruitful path of birdseed, or let's call it Bryan seed, from a decade ago all the way up to the present. Now, first of all, again, those arrogant people that actually don't know anything, have very little education, that are talking down on others for their opinions, be careful what you're saying, because you don't really understand what you're talking about, because you can't think. You're just worried about what you look like. And here's where you're wrong, saying, well, that's just dumb to say that this guy's going to kill 4 people and he's going to go online. He's going to leave all kinds of information for investigators to find. Well, hold on a second, because bulletin boards, you cannot go back and change the date of a posting on a bulletin board. That can't be done. So what you're suggesting is that when he was 16, 17, 18 years old, he's already planning the quadruple murder that he's going to plan and do when he goes into a PhD program when he's nearly 30? Yeah, I don't think so. So first of all, and just in terms of timing, how strange that we have 10, 12, 13-year-old posts online for a guy who looks exactly like this guy, age-appropriate photos that look just like this guy, and he's actually talking about things that align with facts that we find in the affidavit. So why wouldn't we believe that it's him? Correct? This whole Papa Rogers stuff that happened in the Facebook group. He made a post, just one. I've heard people say, "Oh yeah, we know about the sheath. We've been knowing about the sheath. Everybody knew about the sheath until the affidavit came out." No, you didn't, because nobody said a word about the sheath until the affidavit came out, except for Papa Rogers made one post where he says, and I quote, "Of the evidence released, the murder weapon has been consistent as a large fixed blade knife. This leads me to believe they found the sheath," in quotation marks. That's it. That's what Papa Rogers wrote. Now, he wrote a lot of other things that people found provocative and curious. There were a lot of people that wondered, is this Papa Roger guy, is this the killer? This was before they identified Bryan. Could this guy be the killer? And so now we know that one of his statements, one of his Papa Rogers posts, was about finding the sheath. No one ever said anything about a sheath until the affidavit came out. And Papa Rogers has stopped posting. So what do you think? Do you think it was bumbling Bryan? Or do you think it was just somebody having a conversation online? If you believe it was bumbling Bryan, put a 1. If you think it was just some guy that was just chatting along, and then when everything broke out about the sheath, he got scared and disappeared, put a 2. Authorities did indeed find the knife sheath. It is in the affidavit as being found to the right of Maddie Mogen, but the existence was never made public until the affidavit. Let's see. So we have the visual snow postings from a decade ago. Now we have this information about the sheath. I think a comparison between bumbling Bryan's voice and the guy Dave that called into T-Rev's show, and comparing bumbling Bryan's voice from the courtroom sounds like an exact match. So yeah, it does in fact look like he left a digital footprint, which is hilarious because he claimed to his professors that that was an area that he was very interested in terms of his PhD research. He was interested in this whole cloud digital investigations thing. Okay. Now you may ask, well, but why? Why are you so fast to believe that this could be him? Well, if I had no other reason to think that it was a fairly good possibility that that he left a footprint that we could find. Uh-oh, did I kill off my, hold on. Why did I do that? No, I didn't. There's without any other reason to believe it, one thing that makes me say, yeah, he probably did leave quite a footprint, digital footprint, is this. He had no friends. I mean, of all the people that have come forward, that's the one thing that has been shared. He really didn't have any friends. He had the aunt's girl and her brother, I think his name, I don't remember his name. And that's about it. In fact, he was kind of, everybody that knew him described him, as rude and offensive and arrogant. So what do you do when you're brilliant? I talk about book-wise smart. What do you do when you're smart or you think you're smart and you don't really have any friends? Don't you think those people probably spend a lot of time online? I mean, he's not getting invited to a lot of parties. He's not getting invited to go to the beach for spring break. So what do you think he's doing with his time? And now one thing we do know about him based on this 10-year-old information, he has been known to be out driving around all night long since before he ever graduated high school because he doesn't sleep. He has a hard time sleeping. All right. So what you're looking at here is the actual Tapatalk page for this man who called himself Exar, those with visual snow. Okay. And there's other people on here too, because it's a medical discussion board. And there's lots of people talking back and forth. So if you believe that Bryan made all this up, that he lied, that this is a false page or somebody made it up, well, then you got to involve all these other people too. And, you got to you got to pay money to house the thing. And yeah, no, this is probably real, right? Okay. So he's on this original Vision Snow or Static forum. This board is for those who perceive visual snow or television-like static in their visual field. And then you can see there's all kinds of forums, discussions, a gallery, there's messaging, there's notifications. Okay. In this particular thread, it is, I simply don't want to live anymore. And a person left a post that said, this condition, visual snow, is leaving me exhausted. I don't want to live. My quality of life is quite poor because I have this health condition. So visual snow is it's a neurological or perceptual problem. It's a form of hallucination, visual hallucination, that is characterized by very small but diffuse, bilateral and mobile dots that move through the entire field of vision, although it can also be partial field of vision. Depending on the situation, it can only be seen like when there's illumination, but some people very often will have those same symptoms even when their eyes are closed. Because of this whole thing that people are still experiencing even with their eyes are closed, then there's a lot of experts that say, well, it's an actual neurological disorder for the brain's visual processing center. It's not really considered like a psychiatric condition, like a true visual hallucination, that like you're seeing a little green man named Toad in your living room. That type of visual compared to this constant kind of visual disruption that is occurring whether your eyes are open or closed, right? It kind of suggests bypassing this whole optical nerve, kind of thing. So there's a lot of research going on for brains, whether there's a problem with the visual processing centers of the brain. The dysfunction and excessive activity from the neurons of two different parts of the brain seem to play the primary role. That is the primary visual cortex, which basically processes visual information and tells you what you're seeing, right? This is okay. So you've heard of tinnitus, or some people call it tinnitus. Some people pronounce it weird. I've always heard it tinnitus. But so you've heard of tinnitus, which is this ringing that never goes away, right? It's the sound. Okay. Well, you can kind of think about the visual snow phenomenon as fairly similar to tinnitus, except it's a different perceptual system. So with tinnitus, it's hearing, and with visual snow, it's your visual processing area. We have different, there's aphasia. You have Wernicke's aphasia, different types of disruptions in speech. You can have tactile hallucinations. Perceptually, there's a lot that can go wrong. It can go wrong from the exact point of the neuron, the information gathering, like what you touch, what you see, all the way up the nerve, like your optic nerve. And then it could actually be that the optic nerve is fine, the eyeball itself is fine, all systems are go. But once that information that the system has gathered and sent into the brain, once it gets into the brain, where it's actually like a brain disorder that's causing the disruption. There's a kind of blindness that people will tell you, no, I'm blind. I can't see a damn thing. But if you put them in a room with an obstacle course, they can maneuver from one side of the room to the next and never bump into a single thing. Or you can put a bunch of objects on a table in front of them and say, you know, pick up the yellow duck, and their hand will go right to it, even though they don't think they're seeing anything. So there's a lot that can, you know, go wrong. Maybe the eyeball can break down. Maybe there can be disease in the optic nerve, or maybe all that's working just fine, and it's actually a part of the brain itself that is having problem. And so, you know, these conditions are very, very complicated. They're not, you can't just say visual snow like on a TV. That's just stupid. Who believes that, you know, somebody has visual snow in their eyesight? You may be showing your own lack of education by doing that. Don't make fun of people. Maybe just seek out knowledge, right? Okay. So according to this bulletin board for people who experience this unusual and really not rare, but well, it's fairly rare, but unknown perceptual condition or neurological dysfunction, you can go through that board and see how many are posting. There are people that are debilitated by this condition. Their quality of life has been seriously impacted. It is a fairly devastating condition. And as you go in and learn a little bit about it, most people that have visual snow, or they experience episodes or even ongoing visual snow, most of them are experiencing a black and white phenomenon. It seems more about, you know, the illumination problem rather than the actual form and image. But there are some people that are getting colors and they're getting flashing lights. A very unusual presentation is where they feel like what they're looking at is transparent. One moment. Okay, sorry about that. That it looks kind of transparent, like when they're looking out, everything looks like they're underwater. And up to as many as 75% of people that experience this visual snow or visual hallucination phenomenon, they very often will report at least 3 of the following, and that is this after image of objects. It's called palinopsia, light sensitivity, impaired night vision, enhanced entotoptic phenomenon, which is just visual changes originating from inside the eye, like the phenomenon you've heard from your doctor called floaters. People develop floaters later in life, or sometimes when they've had a stroke. Some people get squiggly lines when they look into bright areas of the sky, or bright blue areas of the sky. They may look at a white cloud, but it looks like a rainbow. And then they can also have spontaneous photopsia, which is bright flashing lights. So let me ask you this question. Just me describing this very real medical condition, are you nervous and feeling upset just thinking about it? If you're the one that's living in these conditions every day of your life, or one of your loved ones, do you think it would be a joke, or does it sound horrible? Because to me, it sounds terrifying. Like, it sounds absolutely awful. So there's 2 areas of the brain that seem to be primarily affected, and that is excessive activity in the neurons that are related to the no, I got that backwards, I think. I've written it backwards. It's an excessive activity of neurons in the primary visual cortex, but there's an apparent dysfunction. Some of the research shows a dysfunction in the lingual gyrus. And the lingual gyrus is what causes editing of visual information so that your brain can interpret it. So it is dysfunction in interpretation of what you're seeing, and it's an excessive activity for the processing of information. So it's too much trying to look at what you're seeing and confusion in the interpretation of what you're seeing. So why do people get visual snow? Well, some people develop it when they're quite young. It seems to be primary. It can develop in childhood. Other people don't develop it until after they've begun taking medications, or they have a head injury and sometimes different forms of infection. You might remember that Rush Limbaugh developed hearing loss due to the high levels of opiates that he was taking. You can also have hearing disruption if you take high levels of aspirin. And so I'm not a researcher in this area. I don't know, but one of my questions that I would have for some professional that did do research in this area, my question would be heroin use. What's the chances that high levels of opiates might disrupt visual processing in the same way that it disrupts auditory processing? Correct? Interesting to consider. So if any of you guys are researchers in visual snow, hit me up. Fools and Sages, FOOLZNSAGEZ @gmail.com. There's actually a COVID-19 infection based research project that was published in 2021 documenting the first case of visual snow syndrome after testing positive for COVID. It's a real thing, people. In 2022, there was a case study that was reported that people that had a series of mild concussions will very often report visual snow syndrome. We got a lot of NFL players that are troubled by visual snow. Methylphenidate, you would know that as the medication to treat ADHD, is correlated to, or the treatment with methylphenidate for children is correlated with adulthood visual snow phenomenon. So yeah, if I were to be having a dinner party with one of these researchers, I would ask, tell me about high level opiate use and disruption of visual processing as compared to the same problem, but with the auditory. Because there is, in fact, an established connection between high opiate use and auditory disruption. But I would question, do you see the same thing with the visual, right? Females also tend to get, there are a lot of men that have visual snow phenomenon. Women get it, but their symptoms tend to be more severe. In 2020, there was a published study of 1,100 people. Average age was 29, which is very young. And nearly half of the people said that they had had visual snow symptoms for as long as they could remember. That's terrifying. There is another correlate, and that is migraine. Now, there's a reason I bring this up, because we're talking about Bryan Kohberger. But migraine is positively correlated to visual snow phenomenon. Nearly 75% of people that have a visual snow syndrome also have a history of migraine. And what do we know from friends or people that know Bryan from childhood or from young adult? What have they told us? One guy was bullied by Bryan attacking him, being mean to him. How? By making fun of him because he couldn't understand what Bryan was talking about when Bryan said that he has painless migraine headaches or visual migraine. The guy said, what do you mean? Isn't migraine like a really bad headache? What do you mean you're having migraine, but it doesn't hurt and it's only in your eyes? Oh my God, you're so dumb. How dumb can you be? Everybody knows what that is except you. You're so dumb. Right? That's bullying. Being arrogant like that, putting people down, making fun of them for what they don't know, rather than just educating them and giving them information like any normal person would do. Bullies like Bryan, they tend to make fun of you if you don't know what other people know or what they're talking about. So we do know from this guy, or there were actually two people that talked about it. The dad came out and said it, that Bryan was telling people at some point in his young adult years that he was experiencing either visual migraine or he was having visual, like migraine aura without the pain. Interesting, right? So there again, there's one of the primary supports for believing that the postings that we're going to read about on Tappa Talk are in fact Bryan, and that they are in fact authentic. And to dismiss them, you're showing your own ignorance, that you're so quick to be superior and say, well, hogwash, I'm not going to believe that. You're showing, you want to show superiority, but if you do that, you're going to rob yourself and your channel members of a really wealthy depth of information about this killer or alleged killer. It's a gold mine. It's a treasure trove of early information about what would go on to be a guy that would be accused of a quadruple murder. That is a rare phenomenon. Rare. Don't be so quick to discard it just because you want to be superior. There's a lot to learn about this guy from this thing, from this medical board. Let's see so tinnitus affects only 10% of the population, and visual snow is even less well known or experienced than tinnitus. About 75% of people that have visual snow syndrome also have tinnitus. So there's obviously a relationship between those two, but they can't really tell you much about it because they don't know. It's a weird, experience. I talked about palinopsia and the light sensitivity, impaired night vision, entoptic phenomenon, enhanced entoptic phenomenon as being correlated with this visual snow phenomenon. Visual snow is diagnosed when it lasts longer than 3 months. Symptoms are quite different than what is considered a migraine visual aura. So please remember, Bryan talked about a painless migraine. He talked about visual symptoms. So maybe you just didn't know, he was given medication for migraines. It didn't work. There's your first clue. Actually, maybe it wasn't migraine at all. Maybe he's having visual snow, which he then later goes on to start posting on these boards that he does in fact have visual snow. Migraine with visual aura is temporary, but visual snow syndrome is more consistent. It doesn't tend to wane. It might get a little less severe, but it's always kind of there once it starts. But with migraine, you don't have your aura unless you're having the migraine. Migraine with visual aura occurs as an red flag that we got migraines coming. Get ready because it's about to happen. It can happen during the migraine, but then when the migraine's done, the aura is gone. The visual snow syndrome is not related to migraine at all. You just have it all the time, no matter what, whether you have a migraine or not, it doesn't matter. And the visual aura for a migraine moves like across or around the visual field. Whereas with visual snow syndrome, it's fairly static over the entire visual field. Although there are some documented cases where there is partial field involvement. It is important for doctors to be, I didn't even think about this. This is true. It's important for doctors to be able to tell the two conditions apart. Why? Well, what do migraine treatments do? If Doctora Latina was here, she would tell you, they use vasoconstrictors to treat migraine. Well, what if that's part of the problem with visual snow syndrome? So researchers fear that migraine medications might actually exacerbate symptoms for visual snow, maybe making the condition more profound. Lamotrigine has been used, not with much success, to try to treat visual snow. They've also tried antidepressants, pain medications. They don't improve nor worsen the visual snow syndrome. Alcohol actually worsens syndromes, the visual snow syndrome. So alcohol is exacerbation of symptoms. They've used TMS. It's under investigation right now as a potential treatment. But this is very limited studies. They don't have a bigger study yet, although there's people that are hopeful. TMS basically is magnetic fields where they're stimulating neurons in the brain. So in other words, they don't really know. They're still exploring. They haven't really said it helps or it hurts. They're just entering that phase, I guess you could say. Some doctors are using, their patients are using tinted contact lenses with success. So that's a good thing to know. Visual snow syndrome does not seem to be progressive, and there's not a single known case or documented case where it's led to permanent blindness. All right. Now then, can people drive if they're experiencing symptoms of visual snow? It varies significantly. The level of symptoms varies. Some people, it's a mild annoyance. Sometimes they don't even notice it if they can get their mind focused on something interesting. Other people, it is so profound that they are handicapped. They're impaired. They can't drive or anything. It is more disruptive at night. So night driving, if anything's going to be affected, night driving is usually the first thing that people notice they can't do safely. The bad news is visual snow is not likely to go away at this point in time until there's treatment or effective treatment. Yeah, you just have to try to manage the symptoms or, make behavioral changes in your day-to-day life. So this is a real neurological condition. These dots and these flashes of light are persistent, and, you've got to figure out how to live with it. Okay, now that brings us to, let me take a second and, hey, Calm in the Chaos, welcome. Hey, Rabbit Dog, nice to see you. Mimi Lynn, welcome. Okay. And everybody else, welcome. Thank you for being here. Let's see. AK, welcome. Providing our knowledge, experiences shared with us all. Love her and the being. Thank you so much, AK. You're a sweetheart. Appreciate you. All right. Now then. So let's look at this. We can look at this next. Okay. So when you take a good look, because somebody said, well, you can't even tell if it's him. You can't even see who it is. Just like a little picture of a guy's t-shirt. You don't really know who it is. Well, first of all, okay, so Bumbling Bryan is about 28 years old, correct? Now then, this all is happening. These posts are being made 10, 11, 12 years ago. So somewhere around 17, 18 years old when these posts were being made. So I want you to take a look at this guy right here. You can see just a little bit of his eyes up here, right? And now I'm going to show you a picture of bumbling Bryan when he was in high school. In fact, this is his yearbook photo. This is his yearbook photo. So take a look at this guy. Nose, mouth, chin, ears. And now look at the yearbook photo. Same person? Graduation photo. Is that him? What do you think? If you think that this is a picture of bumbling Bryan, put a 1. If you can't tell who it is at all, put a 2. Okay. Okay, so most of us, St. Elmo says, no, I can't see it. That is very hard for me to believe, but that's okay. That's okay. You don't have to. And I really wish I could make it close. I wish I could make it a bit bigger. Let me see if I can. Because if you can really, when you really get close up, you can definitely see that it's him. I'll put the link. I'll put the link in the chat. So, and then if you guys want to like click over, like open up another browser and go over and look at the picture on your own screen, then you may be more inclined to be able to see it is him. It is him. I promise. It at least it's the picture of him. Okay. Hey, Martin, welcome. Good to have you. Truth Seeker, welcome. Yeah, I don't like name calling either. Okay, so this I can't see his nose. So anyway, so this is a photograph of bumbling Bryan when he was somewhere 16, 17, 18 years old. Okay, I'm very certain about that. Okay, and but like I said, you've got the link now. You can put it in another browser and kind of zoom in as far as you want, as close as you want to get. And you'll be able to see, you can actually see his eyes. It's just hard from me presenting it on this platform like this. All right. And again, these posts were done 10, 11, 12 years ago, right? So this is a big forum for people with visual snow, original visual snow or static forum on that tapatalk.com. Okay, it's a big group. And there's lots of forums to discuss it, discussions, gallery messages, notifications. And somebody in the general discussion forum, somebody had left a post about, my quality of life is horrible. I don't want to live like this. This is awful. And, I want to die. Or I don't want to live anymore. And so Bryan leaves a post, and this is on December the 20th, 2011, exactly 10 years ago, basically. And he said, I have had this for over 2 years, and I have it bad in every single way. Okay. So he'd had it for 2 years. So about the time he was 15, 16 years old. Not one night have I slept normal since, and I feel like I am trapped here. I have been able to block it out for a while now, but I realize what is wrong, and it suddenly becomes unbelievable. I am desensitized in every way now. People say these are supposed to be the years I enjoy and cherish. Well, I can say I will cherish. Well, I cannot say I will cherish these days. And then there's some other people that comment, and he says, you feeling the same way makes me feel like someone is there. Thanks for responding to me. And I have taken migraine pills, actually every effective migraine pill on the market, and I ended up overdosing nearly 2 times. Off of those meds, I would not consider doing that again, though. Okay, so now more people respond to him. And this guy's talking about the secondary symptoms of like depression, anxiety, sleep disorder. More. So see, there's an active conversation that's going on in here, right? All right. So let me go back up. So if you go to Reddit, there are people that have gone through and they've pulled out, all of his posts, right? And so you can go to Reddit and you can read like all of the posts that he's put out on this board. And some of them are quite profound in terms of the level of suffering that he's having. He joined this in 2009, this bulletin board in November 2nd, 2009. And he was last active February the 20th in 2012. He made a total of 118 posts and he got 1 like. So maybe this will make it. No, I still can't get it very big, but it's definitely him. Let's see. Okay, so he leaves. Okay. Oh, okay. So here's one. He says in this February 20th, 2012 post, and that's important because this was actually the last post that he made, right? So he says, I went crazy on Topamax or something. Is that what? Yeah, I went crazy on Topamax. So Topamax is a medication that is primarily it's an anticonvulsant, right? It can be used with children who are at least 2 years of age, but it's primarily used in teenagers and adults. Topamax is primarily used to treat seizures, partial onset seizures, primary tonic-clonic seizures, and then seizures that are associated with Lennox-Gastaut syndrome. There are some interesting side effects to Topamax. And one of those interesting side effects is weight loss. In fact, maybe 8 years ago, 9 years ago, it started actually being prescribed for weight loss as a weight loss, supplement enhancement, right? The problem is that it can also cause problems with glaucoma. It can increase high levels of acid in your blood. I mean, it is considered a mood stabilizer of sorts. So it can kind of control some of the highs and lows that you get sometimes with bipolar. But, it's also a really, really powerful psychotropic medication. So I found it interesting that he was taking this medication, number one. I wondered if the same was true with the migraine medication. Did he take too much of the Topamax? And one thing that we know about Topamax that is absolutely necessary, and that is you cannot just quit taking it. Topamax is one of those medications. If you've been taking it regularly and you take a or you take a high dose, you've got to titrate down because it can cause a real medical emergency in terms of having uncontrolled seizures and such. Topamax can cause an increase in body temperature. It can reduce sweating. It's so effective in this sense that it actually can lead to dehydration in children. I will. So basically, make a long story short, it's a really powerful drug, and he claims that he was taking it for this visual snow problem. They also had him on Depakote. Again, another really powerful psychotropic medication. And what really shocked me, and I wish that Dr. Latina was here, but what really shocked me is that at one point they were actually prescribing to him both Depakote and Topamax at the same time, which is contraindicated. You can't do that because it can really cause a serious, medical problem or medical emergency. So at this point now, it's important for me to say that he's claimed to the judge he is not taking medication now. Right? He says, not taking medication now. This medication has been associated with severe psychiatric reactions. Again, I wish Dr. Latina was with us to address this. It can increase levels of ammonia in your blood, which then leads to fainting, vomiting, weakness. High levels of acid in your blood the symptoms are irregular heartbeat, a loss of appetite, feeling short of breath, having trouble thinking. It can increase the likelihood of developing a kidney stone, I guess because of dehydration problems. But specifically to mental status, there is confusion, problems in memory, difficulty in concentration. You can develop problems with speech. And that is all by itself without adding the Depakote. Crazy, right? So as I'm reading this, I'm remembering what these couple of people that knew him, how they said that he had a fast change in personality. Rapid weight loss, increased aggression and anger. And now we know by going back 10 years ago and reading this bulletin board that it looks like he was actually taking some really powerful psychotropic medications at the same time that could have prompted the weight loss as well as the anger. All right. So I've given you the link to this discussion group. Talk to you about what visual snow is. Oh, look, here's a study seeking participants right there. And you can see there are, 5,000 topics in the general discussion. There's 1,500 posts on the doing polls related to this condition. There are 361 postings about medical tests and diagnoses. There's 83 posts on videos, images, and pictures. Suggestions for things that have helped, 768 posts. The last one made November 28, 2022. So it's an active board that was going on even 10 years ago. Look at the archives. They've tried Neurontin, persistent visual static field, US-based medical. So it's Overall, 64,000 posts, nearly 8,000 topics. And yes, regardless of whether you want to be self-important and, know more than everybody else and make fun of people that are in search of information, the reality is that it does in fact look exactly like Bryan Kohberger, who is posting on a board claiming that he has had visual snow phenomenon since he was approximately 16 years old. And remember this, if you choose to declare this fake because you don't want to think about the fact that he might be he might be a human being secondary to being a monster, you're going to miss out on information that could educate you about a person who would be willing to commit a quadruple murder allegedly. I have just accepted my visual snow. I don't even feel the need to stay away from this forum. So we know right there he's avoidant. I feel like coming to terms could be a bad thing, though. And then he goes on and discusses that. What about, is this visual snow a thing? Visual symptoms from coughing. Yeah, it seems that visual snow actually assimilates to the new things that occur. You just have to train your body to be used to physical pressure. Now, let's see. Okay, I think this is the post. Let me look. I thought the post I was looking for was December 11th, but no, that's not. Seems like I have to keep going back to the original post, don't I? Yep. Already read that one. Sometimes. Oh, it says here that he was getting treatment for hypothyroidism as well. Exercising heavily, eating very good stuff. There was one of these posts, and I guess I should have done a screenshot. No, that's not it either. Let me just comment on it if I don't see it here. Hold on. Oh. So he left a screenshot. No, he did. He made a post. Sorry about that. He made a post where he talked about leaving his house this Christmas and saying goodbye to his house. Now his house is dead. That kind of thing. It was melodramatic. It was really over the top, blah, blah, blah. And again, this person saying, what do you mean? You're living in your house. You've been in your house. Where's your house going? Okay. Again, this is a person commenting on something they clearly have not educated themselves on. Okay. So let me explain that post to you in case you run across this. Bryan's parents declared bankruptcy twice. Okay. And as a function of one of those bankruptcies, they left their home. They sold their home, which happened to be Bryan's childhood home. So they were without, I guess they were renting for a period of time. I don't know. And then a couple of years later, they bought the house that we see them in now, the house that Bryan was arrested in. Correct? So again, this is another one of those posts that I said, yes, this is authentic. This date of him being heavily burdened and melancholic about the house being dead. Now I've lost even my house. That coincides with the date of the second bankruptcy. So it's real. I know that there are arrogant people that want to declare that it's fake. This is not. There are things that align here with new information that has come out that is reliable, right? But this was done back in 2010, 20 years ago. I'm sorry, 10 years ago. So it would be considered authentic. Yeah. So Cinnamon, that's another thing. I had said the behavior of stalking these girls and taking so much time planning and whatnot, that in and of itself suggests that there is a neurological tendency towards compulsive behavior, right? That he's developing these obsessions and whatnot. I think he's a hand washer. I think his hands look like a hand washer, with them being, the skin's very, very white with red splotches and whatnot. Now, some people that are very severe hand washing, their hands will become really raw all over. You'll see cracked palms, bleeding, that kind of thing. But his looks like lots of hand washing, but it just starts looking very white, and the skin looks chalky, kind of, with blotches of red. So I think he's a hand washer. I think he's OCD, compulsively washing hands. This whole medication visual snow phenomenon that he's fighting with. His migraine medication, he's overdosing on his migraine medication. So we might as well accept he's probably overdosing on his Depakote and his Topamax, which is devastating. This is some serious medication here. So yeah, he's a guy that's got some problems. Now, this video, we're already an hour and a half in, so I need to got to find a stop mark somewhere. Okay. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to end this live. And then I'm not done yet with this bulletin board or this discussion group. I want to go through and pull out there's some very specific, now that I've made the case that I think this is authentic. Obviously I can be corrected if I'm wrong, but I think this is authentic. And I think that we should all read it, because we can learn a lot about this guy from long before he conceived of a quadruple murder, allegedly. And then the next video I'm going to pull out some passages and some comments, some postings that he did, where I might even make the case that he had some big red flags for some problems in reality testing. There might be some evidence of psychosis, but let me say that with a big old fat, caution. I'm going under the assumption that if he abused his migraine medications, then you might as well expect that he was probably taking too much Topamax and Depakote as well. It's possible that he was given Neurontin, gabapentin. Those things can be, can be abused. So, and then if you add all that in, that he's using heroin at the same time, it's just crazy. Who knows what kind of damage he did to his brain with all this, So it's really, this is a treasure trove of information for people that understand this area of science. Dr. Latina is going to be able to read through this and just, she'll have a very different she'll be able to look at the medical side of this, the medications and physiology. And then I'll be able to look at the behavioral side of it and the perceptual problems. And maybe we can come up, with some information. So that'll be the next step in this thing, is I'm going to look at this really from looking at early symptoms, and we'll talk about that then on the next one. Okay. So if you found this topic interesting, or you thought it was boring, or you thought it was too much for YouTube, let me know, because I'm interested. I don't have to talk about this kind of stuff. I just thought it might be interesting to talk about. Thank you, Alma, and it's good to see you. How are you and your parrot? I agree, Critters. I'm with you 100%. I think his parents had to have known. Reading this discussion group, by his own admission, the medications that he's given back 10 years ago, of course they knew that he was struggling. Even with the heroin use, that he was in and out of treatment facilities. I believe that. We do expect that relapse is a part of sobriety, right? And we've got some people in here that have been sober a long time and whatnot. Hey, Coffee and Conversation. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome. So relapse is considered a part of the path to sobriety. So it's not unusual to hear that he was, quotation marks, in and out of rehab. You would expect that. And with a drug like heroin, it is physically very, very addictive. It's psychologically addictive as well, but it's also physically addictive, so that if you don't have it, you get very, violently sick with vomiting and whatnot. So, so far, the things that I've read on this discussion group at Tapatalk, it is consistent with what has come out from friends that knew him, family members, the affidavit, police, investigators' comments. So far, it does look real. It does look real. No, I know it's a long time ago. It's 10 years ago. Media is evil. You might want to go back to the beginning of my video to see what we're talking about today. So I am inclined to believe that Tapatalk conversation is in fact Bryan. I think his discussion of experiencing visual snow phenomenon goes along with contemporary information that we're getting now, that we've learned since the murders. I think that the historical data related to family bankruptcy and the abandonment of a home is consistent with the postings that he's making on Tapatalk. So I feel good about believing the Tapatalk post as being authentic. The photograph looks exactly like this high school photograph of him. I think that it is very interesting. The Papa Roger posting is very interesting, that he made the post about the sheath, and no one has discussed a knife sheath. No one, regardless of what your favorite creator is telling you. No one talked about the sheath except this single posting that was on a Facebook thing by a guy named Papa Roger. And then once we got the affidavit, in the affidavit, they described finding the sheath on the right side of Maddie Mogan. And that's where they found the DNA. So that strikes me as being true. The phone call to T-Rev, when you compare the voice on the phone call with him, Bryan, answering questions in court, it's a nearly exact match. And my final determination is this: This is a loner. This is a socially awkward guy from the very beginning who really struggled to make a connection with human beings. He was not getting invitations to go to the coolest parties. He was a loner, not because he wanted to be. In many ways, I think he was probably a lot like Elliot Rodgers. He too was self-important. Elliot Rodgers thought he was the bee's knees because his daddy was in Hollywood and they had lots of money. But he was very strange and he was very offensive to people and he couldn't make a connection. If you're an intelligent, intellectual kind of guy, I don't mean he was street smart or wise. He was definitely not wise, but he had book smarts, right? If you're smart and you don't have any friends, what are you probably spending a lot of your time doing? You're probably on the internet. Any kind of real friendships you're making are probably digital kind of virtual friends, right? So yeah, I do believe that this isn't the only avenue to Bryan's thoughts. I think I think there's going to be more and more people that are going to uncover where he has left comments and commentary littering the internet. And what's so ironic is that was actually one of the areas that he was very interested in terms of criminology. He wanted to learn about the cloud type of investigations. All right. Okay. Let me leave the link for Alma and anybody else that wants to go read it. Alma, there's the link. And just click it and it'll take you to his page, and then just click the 118 post and you can go through and read, what he talked about. But like I said, my next video, I'll come back and pull it, talk about it, the post that I found, and look at it strictly from like a psychiatric point of view. All right. Okay. People wondered about his shirt. His shirt. What do you mean his shirt? Oh, is that the link to the really? Zoo York Skate logo. How the hell did you find that, AK? That's crazy. Oh my God. How did you do that, AK? How did you find that? That's from 10 years ago. That is crazy. The link worked. I have it open on another tab. I know you're AK. I know. I thought Papa Roger was debunked as some RSO from Virginia or some other state. Oh, I don't know, Inquisitive Mind. I didn't really follow the Papa Roger thing because I think there's probably a lot of people that were kind of impersonating the guy. But I thought the sheath, that comment about the sheath, and it was just one comment. The guy made tons of posts, but it was the one comment about the sheath I thought was very interesting when the affidavit came out. So that one I'm not sure about, but I'm sure about this Tappa Talk thing. That is so funny that you found that, AK. That is just you. I never took you as a fashion maven, AK. You're kind of like the dragon lady in, The Devil Loves Prada. Are you the devil, AK? AK is checking the trash again. I know, right? That is not a wadded up piece of paper. That is a data point, damn it. So funny. Wow. Well, there you have it. AK found the shirt. Thank you, AK. All right. I know, AK. Just ignore them. You know who you are. That's all that matters. Hey, Big Ups. AK, Big Ups wants to know if you got your jacket, your $1 million jacket. Everyone takes specific comments that support their confirmation bias. Agreed. Yes. Totally believe that. Tappa posts, though. It's wild insight into his mind. It is inquisitive mind. I am fascinated by those postings. And my first thing was I've got to look for things that we know are true that will match up, right? That was my first, when I first went through them, that was my first step. And like I said, about the foreclosure and bankruptcy, that period of time matched up to the post about him saying goodbye to his house and, all that. So yeah, I'm with you. I think the Tappa Talk is authentic. I do. AK's jacket is back ordered. Big Ups got their jacket. Callie Dime, all of it stemmed from him being adopted. He couldn't cope with it, or maybe wouldn't. I always wondered which. Taught me that mental pain is as real as physical pain, no doubt. Well, one thing I think that people fail to consider, Illusion, is nothing happens in the body unless it happens in the brain first. If you don't have the brain, the body doesn't do anything. It can't. I mean, if you don't believe me, just look at a person that's experiencing locked-in syndrome. Once the higher cortex is damaged and no longer functioning, you're only working on your old brain, the brain stem. You've just got a beating heart. And that's really about it. Your body doesn't even really maintain your blood pressure. We have to keep them lying, exactly flat. To move them at all will make their blood pressure go up or down. So it happens in your brain first, and then the body proceeds. So if it's an emotion, it has to have the chemical reaction first, and then you experience the emotion. If it's a movement, your brain has to conceive of it first, map out a plan for movement in the cerebellum, and then the body does it. So I think too many people are so quick to discount this idea that, an emotional experience is not separate from the physical body. It's all the same thing. It's why if you are diagnosed with cancer, the very first thing they're going to do is say, here's your psychologist. Now you got to figure out how to be happy and laugh and do things that are really healthy for you mood wise, because that will increase the chances that the treatment will work physically. You can't separate the emotional psychological experience from the physical experience. It's all a system. It's like saying my tires of my car are my car. No, your tires are only one piece. You got to have the engine, you got to have the body, you got to have the steering wheel. And that's the difference between physio and psychological. Unless you got a psychological part of the brain functioning, you don't have a brain. You don't have a body. You're not a person. You're just a vessel. All right. Idaho ain't Florida. That is true, Illusion. You are so very right. Okay. What happened to Big Ups? I missed something. Got a call half an hour ago. He was in the hospital. Who? Oh my gosh, Big Ups. Who passed? Your cousin fell off a ladder. Oh my God. I'm so sorry, Big Ups. So sorry. Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's terrible. Terrible. So sorry. He looked just like Rich from the Big and Rich band. Oh, I'm so sorry, Big Ups. It is terrible to lose a family member to anything, but when they're young, it's so hard to make sense of. It's just awful. He was in Utah. Okay. I am so sorry, Big Ups. Well, you and your family, his family, you guys are in my prayers. I'm so sorry that happened to y'all. So fast. So fast, Illusion. It's amazing how quickly things can happen. Yeah. Yeah, Elliot Rogers, right? I've learned a lot. Yeah, incels. Hey, I've had people before say, now this is I love Jordan Peterson. He's a brilliant genius, okay? And there's not very many geniuses in the world. So you might want to at least have the respect to listen, just give him the space to talk, even though you don't agree with him. You don't have to agree with him, but he is a genius. And, until he began kind of pushing back on this, men are evil idea, he was regarded as a genius. He was a professor at Harvard, one of the most successful researchers that we've ever had. He's one of the most prolific researchers. He writes books that, you need a artificial intelligence computer to interpret for you because it's so, out there. But that's one of his kind of pet projects that he can get really emotional about. And it is that he doesn't like this term incel. He doesn't like people talking about these young men, primarily young men. There are some young women, but primarily young men who can't seem to fit in, that they're awkward and they're not accepted by their peer group, and they're lonely, and their developmental task and course is being frustrated by these, failure to be accepted and failure to socially thrive and whatnot. And so he does work with these kids, these young people, and he tells them, if nobody is accepting you, it's probably your fault. So let's think about ways that you can change your behavior so that you're more readily accepted within your peer group. And so this is kind of one of his areas, is to try to help young men like this guy and Elliot Rogers to be a little bit more appropriate and be a little more successful, in their social life. And he talks to parents about being better parents in terms of promoting social skills. Even for kids that may be a bit on the spectrum, you can still train them to respond in an expected way. So that being said, I've read these incel groups, right? Like I've spent hours and hours and hours reading. We had some research stuff going on with one of the reasons. And I'm telling you, these guys are angry. You read some of the posts in these incel groups, they're violent people. They think Elliot Rogers is the bomb. They love him. He's like their king. So they get very angry and they get very bitter because they haven't been accepted. And it can come out in really, really bad ways. So that's a good point. I mean, more and more, this guy is really given that feeling of being one of those Elliot Rogers guys, right? I agree with you. Yep. Seems to me as there is a lot of overlap between incels and autism. I'm sure not all people with autism are incels, but I wonder if there are incels. Yes, there are. Incels wouldn't be correlated to autism. No. The whole idea of the incel is that they want to be active. They want to be dating. They want to be accepted. They want to be a part of the social fabric. In autism, that's not really, well, it's not the driving force. For somebody that is on the spectrum, they get really excited and stimulated by ideas, by things. They don't really care much about social interactions. That's not really it's not their primary they like information. Most of them have some kind of pet idea that I once knew this kid that knew everything there was to know about every single roller coaster that had ever been built in the on the North American continent. It was crazy. He knew just off the top of his head, he knew where they were located, what year, what the primary engineers' names were, how far, how long it took to ride, how many cars. It was fascinating. And the parents, to their credit, they were awesome. And the child would learn about one of these I had the same kind of thing with elevators. This kid knew everything about elevators. But would learn about a roller coaster, and then either the whole family or just the dad would then take the kid after he was able to know everything about the roller coaster, and then they would go to wherever the roller coaster was, and then they would ride the roller coaster over and over. And sometimes it was one roller coaster all day long and nothing else. But it promoted, it was sort of like whole language instruction for you teachers, like whole language instruction, right? The parent was using his primary interest in roller coasters to teach things like geography and math and, history. And then once he could answer all the questions from a whole language perspective, then the reward was to go out and ride the roller coaster. Cool family, right? Very cool family. So, okay, people, if you enjoyed this, if you thought it was interesting, it will help me in the algorithm. It will help other people find this video. If you will hit the thumbs up, and if you will subscribe and hit the button so that you get notifications when I put new videos up. And I need everybody to put their shopping list in the comments under this video. You don't have to put the shopping list. You can put your favorite movie if you want to. You can tell me how you think AK found the shirt if you want to do that. You can write about whatever you want to underneath this video. Just leave a comment so that we can get the attention of the algorithm. And the algorithm will say, hey, this must be a cool video. Let me see if I'll put it out there for other people. My click-through rate right now is running somewhere between 10% and 17%. And that seems to be high for YouTube. So I don't know why my video gets shared more often through Google than it does from like the YouTube suggestions. Isn't that crazy? So, the videos are performing really well. It's amazing, but YouTube doesn't want to suggest it to other people. So, we're getting it through Google. But anyway, if you would subscribe, and if you would do the thumbs up, and if you would leave some kind of little, just say, hey, underneath the video, just something so the algorithm says, oh, look, another comment. That'd be a big help. All right. Okay. And if you want to contribute, make a donation for AK's $10,000 thermal drone, then, maybe we'll have to think about doing a fundraiser. How's that, AK? We'll devise a fundraiser. Okay. Thank you, AK. You're a sweetheart. I appreciate you. All right, everybody. You guys are off. Hey, Jan Ryhall. Welcome. Thank you and praise God. Amen. I agree. Okay, Irene, thank you for your input. I appreciate you. I have been reading on Elliot Rogers is. Oh, yeah. And you should watch his videos because he's a weird guy. He was a very unusual guy. All right. You know what I'm going to say, don't you? What am I going to say? I'm going to say, y'all have a good evening, and I'll be back.